Hi, my name is Henry Griffith, and I'm a lecturer within the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering and a Technology Licensing Associate within the Office of Commercialization and Innovation at the University of Texas at San Antonio. I'm joined today by Adam Hooker, who is an undergraduate student within the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering at UTSA, and we'd like to tell you a little bit about our ongoing efforts to help meet the high-tech workforce demands of San Antonio. So if you're attending the presentation today, you're well aware of the role that technology will play within the smart cities of tomorrow. And within all the opportunities that this technology will create, there's lots of challenges that will come about as well, including from a workforce development point of view. And in order to ensure that we're able to provide adequate human capital to meet the demands of tomorrow's smart cities, we need to ensure that we have enough workers and that the workforce adequately represents the diversity of the population that we're trying to serve. And unfortunately, we're starting from a lot of challenges as it relates to meeting these workforce demands. The figure that I've included on the right is a survey of CEOs from PricewaterhouseCoopers, and you'll notice that nearly 80% of them say that one of their main concerns about the growth of their company is the lack of tech skills amongst their existing workforce. In addition to that skills gap within the existing workforce, another challenge that we face is the significant demand for tech talent on a global scale. And this is particularly important for cities like San Antonio that are in a developing tech ecosystem that are competing with tech talent with existing more established tech ecosystems like Austin and Houston. And as I've noted in my second bullet point there, this problem will only become more prevalent as the pace of technology innovation continues to accelerate. In addition to the scale problem, we also have a diversity problem. And you're probably familiar with the fact that this diversity problem has existed for many years within the general STEM workforce. But I'd like to focus on a few statistics that are particularly oriented towards the engineering and computing workforce, which is very relevant for smart cities, obviously. Particularly, women actually compose less than a quarter of the engineering and computing workforce at the moment. And in addition, African American and Hispanic individuals are very underrepresented, as you can see in the figure on the right. And rather than read through all those kind of numbers for you, and I'll share these slides as well if you're interested in reading the report in detail, one particular statistic that I wanted to point out is how underrepresented African Americans and Hispanics are amongst PhD graduates in artificial intelligence. And if you're familiar with a lot of the emerging challenges within AI, you know why that's a problem from a fairness and explainability and diversity point of view. Clearly, given the institution that we're affiliated with at UTSA, we think that engineering education and undergraduate degree pathways are one of the primary ways that we can address this workforce shortage. But unfortunately, we face a lot of challenges there as well. And just like the diversity issue, these challenges have been here for a long time, particularly in engineering education. Retention remains a point of considerable concern. If you look at the figure on the right, you may have heard the number beforehand that persistence to undergraduate degrees in engineering is on the order of 50%. The figure that I've included here is degree attainment within 4 years, and it's even significantly lower than 50%. And you'll notice if you read through that those statistics are especially challenging for historically marginalized groups. If you look at the details of how this lack of attainment of the 4-year degree happens, you'll notice that a large portion of the attrition occurs between the first and the second year. So if you read the literature, you'll see that a large number of factors are hypothesized to contributing to this attrition and lack of degree attainment. One is a lack of self-efficacy. Individuals, particularly at kind of emerging research institutions like UTSA, may just not feel like they can do engineering or computer science. In addition, lack of engagement. One of the special challenges when you kind of teach introductory engineering courses now is you're dealing with a student population that's digitally native. They grew up with smartphones. They grew up with the internet. They might just not be engaged by doing traditional engineering content that was covered 15 to 20 years ago. Additionally, there's a lack of resource awareness. At UTSA, we're privileged to serve a lot of first-generation college students like myself. They might not be aware of where to get help if they're struggling, where the tutoring opportunities are, where the scholarship opportunities are in order to fund their education. And in addition, there's of course issues potentially with a lack of preparation, especially on the mathematics side of things. So as I mentioned, we have an ongoing effort now that's trying to dramatically expand the pool of tech workers available within electrical and computer engineering in San Antonio by redesigning the introduction to ECE course in an attempt to really disrupt the traditional attrition mechanisms. In addition, we hope that kind of by improving student success within this introductory course, that these success stories will be able to kind of serve as an recruitment mechanism and grow enrollment within the program by demonstrating the unique value proposition that you get with an ECE education. So as I mentioned, this is currently being implemented and there's plans to expand it far beyond the intro course, but we're kind of starting at the starting point of the curriculum in the Intro to Electrical and Computer Engineering course that traditionally is taken within the first semester of a student's enrollment. In terms of the particular things that we're doing, point one, accelerating exposure to emerging technologies. This kind of relates to that hypothesis that I was saying earlier, that if you have a digitally native student that's familiar with a smartphone and kind of grew up with the internet their whole life, they're just not impressed by doing traditional kind of through-hole protoboard type experiments involving a multimeter. So we really think if we can accelerate that exposure, we can expand engagement. In addition, we're trying to enhance self-efficacy and resource awareness through expanding the guest speaker series within the course. In addition, we'd like to expand the pool, and we are expanding the pool of available support resources by taking advantage of the talent that's actually present within the class. And finally, we're using a novel near-peer undergraduate research mentoring program that's trying to accelerate students' opportunities to actually enter that type of value-added programming. So in terms of accelerating students' exposure to emerging technologies, we're using Google's AI-wide voice kit. And what this is allowing us to do is provide a hands-on, team-based learning experience where students can actually see a lot of the technologies that they'll be focusing on later in their curriculum in action right at the beginning. Natural language processing, embedded computing, and cloud computing. From the self-efficacy side of things, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the guest speaker series that we're having. In the upper left, that's John Collins. He's the director of engineering at Vinton, and he really has an impressive resume of past experience at startups, scale-ups, and big corporations such as Apple. He's actually presenting remotely there, live from Berlin, and that's one of the students kind of asking a question after his guest presentation. In the upper right, we have Ryan Saavedra, who's the CEO of Alt Bionics. That's a local startup in the San Antonio community. One of the coolest things about his presentation is he was actually able to show how his prosthetic smart hand was a result of his senior design project here at UTSA. In the lower left, we have Jill Ford, and she is the Assistant Dean of Student Success within the College of Engineering and Integrated Design at UTSA. She was able to tell students all about scholarship opportunities, the importance of internships, and all of the support resources that are available to them through the Student Success Center. And in the lower right, we actually have Charles Wooden, who's the CEO of Geekdom here in San Antonio. And the point of that was to kind of make students aware that if they do have an idea and they would like to pursue the startup, that they have the ability to do that right here in San Antonio. In terms of expanding student support resources, you probably saw in the last class that this is a really, really, really big class. It was in a big lecture hall at first, and we were fortunate enough to move to a newer redesigned group that's a little more student friendly. But one of the challenges is we have about a total enrollment of 120 students, and we only have one TA and one grader. Additionally, when you teach a class like the intro class now, a lot of these students have been exposed in high school to a lot of material that they traditionally wouldn't know at the beginning of their curriculum. Things like calculus, things like programming, maybe they've been involved with FIRST robotics or so on. And we really see this heterogeneous preparation level as an opportunity to expand student support resources. So what we're trying to do is kind of identify those students that exhibit exceptional performance early on in the course and incentivize them to actually develop resources that will help their peers that don't have that level of prior background exposure And in order to provide that incentive, we're using micro-credentialing of soft skills on LinkedIn. And what I have here on the right is actually a video that was made for a subgroup of students that wanted to improve their exam one performance. This was made and posted by YouTube by one of the students that's actually enrolled in the class this semester. In terms of accelerating participation in undergraduate research, you're probably familiar with the fact that, particularly for a lot of the technologies that are relevant to smart cities, one of the main ways that students get to expose themselves and practice those technologies is through research experiences. And these undergraduate research experiences are known to improve student success and persistence to degree. But one of the biggest problems is students aren't typically able to access them until they've taken quite a bit of courses in order to have the adequate skill set to contribute to those research projects. And that's great, but if a lot of the attrition is happening in year one and year two, we're trying to think of a kind of innovative way to allow students to take advantage of those opportunities. And the way that we're doing this is through an innovative near-peer mentoring program that, and in addition, we won't have time to talk about it today, but a guided kind of extracurricular study group that utilizes the online resources in the form of MOOCs, like Coursera's has a lot of programming and machine learning. Specifically, they have an introduction to TensorFlow course that we'll be working on kind of in a guided study environment through the support of TensorFlow in the spring semester. And next, I'd like to formally introduce Adam Hooker, who's going to tell you a little bit about his service as a near-peer mentor in the inaugural program.
Thank you, Dr. Griffith. Like Dr. Griffith said, my name is Adam Hooker. I'm an electrical engineering major at University of Texas at San Antonio. My studies primarily focus on artificial intelligence and software development. During my undergraduate studies, I've been allowed a lot of really cool opportunities. Some of those including research experience for undergraduates, just academic research with professors. I've worked for startups. I've worked for the Applied Physics Division of Southwest Research Institute, and I've even been able to work with NASA. These are all experiences that I like to bring into my mentorship to help students better understand how to prepare for whatever their dream internship or REU is. Some of the accomplishments that I want to highlight centered around these mentorship sessions are just being able to hold 10 consecutive weeks of hour-long sessions, being able to collaborate with students so that all of our schedules work together and they would be engaged and want to participate, and even sometimes work on tasks outside of the design meeting times. In these meeting sessions, we were actually able to create career and academic roadmaps to better understand how academic goals would complement career goals. Some things that we went over and we iterated through multiple times included resumes and statement of purposes, so that students would be able to have a strong starting point for applying for whatever position they want to get into, whether it's internships and REUs. One thing that I took personal responsibility for, and I believe strongly, is just making sure that students are aware of what opportunities are available to them in jobs, internships, and REUs. And I'm happy to say that we were actually able to successfully place 100% of participants in campus-based research. So this included 2 students from the computer science department and 2 students from the electrical engineering department. And we'll move on to the next slide. Another near-peer mentorship pair that we wanted to highlight was Ashley Larwick and Rabiat Sadiq. Ashley is a biomedical engineering major with a minor in computer science. Rabiat is a computer engineering major. This was a very strong combo that we had a lot of positive results from. During this time, they were asked, what they found was their biggest success and what accomplishments they had achieved, and they highlighted that Rabiat had been shown that there were certifications that were perfect for her to help increase her resume and job marketability for better preparing for internships. We believe she's a strong candidate right now for a particular Apple internship that we wish her the best on, and we hope that she's going to be able to get as a result of this program. When Ashley was asked what she got from the program, she really wanted to highlight that she realized she had natural leadership qualities that that came out in this program. She also enjoyed the opportunity to exercise role model attributes and establish a meaningful relationship with Rabiat.
Thank you, Anna. So in terms of our next steps, we're kind of implementing all these interventions for the first time in the 2021 semester. And we look forward to disseminating our results in the academic literature, and hopefully some of the lessons learned that we've had, the various attendees today would be able to scale within the colleges of engineering in their individual cities. In the spring, we're actually planning to develop modularized content that would allow this to be optimized for hybrid and online delivery. Ideally, we hope that these resources, or a subset of these resources, could not only be used within the Intro to ECE class at UTSA, but could also be leveraged as supplemental programming, even at the high school level or the summer camp level. And we'd be very, very interested in collaborating or hearing the feedback of anyone that may have it. So please feel free to email me at the email address listed there if you have any ideas, feedback, or would like to collaborate. Thank you for your time.